ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friends, this is video number 39 on Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Parmahamsa. This video starts with restlessness for God vision, master to Greece. One can realize God through intense renunciation, but the soul must be restless for Him, as restless as one feels for a breath of air when one's head is pressed under water. A man can see God if he unites in himself the force of these three attractions: the attraction of worldly possessions for the worldly man, the husband's attraction for the chaste wife, and the child's attraction for its mother. If you can unite these three forms of love and give it all to God, then you can see Him at once. Cry to your mother, Shama, with a real cry of mind, and how can she hold herself from you? If a devotee prays to God with real longing, God cannot help revealing Himself to him. The other day I told you the meaning of bhakti. It is to adore God with body, mind, and words. With body means to serve and worship God with one's hands, go to holy places with one's feet, hear the chanting of the name and glories of God with one's ears, and behold the divine image with one's eyes. With mind means to contemplate and meditate on God constantly and to remember and think of His Leela. With words means to sing hymns to Him and chant His name and glories. Devotion, as described by Narada, is suited to the Kali Yuga. It means to chant constantly the name and glories of God. Let those who have no leisure worship God at least morning and evening by wholeheartedly chanting His name and clapping their hands. The ego of a devotee begets no pride. It does not create ignorance. On the contrary, it helps one realize God. This ego is no more like the ordinary ego than hinge is like ordinary greens. One generally becomes indisposed by eating greens, but hinge removes excessive bile. It does one good. Sour candy is not like ordinary sweets. Sweets are generally harmful, but sugar candy removes acidity. Nishtha leads to bhakti. Bhakti, when mature, becomes bhava. Bhava, when concentrated, becomes mahabhava. And last of all is prema. Prema is like a cord. By prema, God is bound to the devotee. He can no longer run away. An ordinary man can at best achieve bhava. None but an Iswarakoti attains Mahabhava and Prema. Chaitanya Deva attained them. What is the meaning of Jnana Yoga? It is the path by which a man can realize the true nature of his own self. It is the awareness that Brahma alone is his true nature. Prahlada sometimes was aware of his identity with Brahma, and sometimes he would see that God was one and he another. At such times he would remain in the mood of bhakti. Hanuman said, O Rama, sometimes I find that you are the whole and I a part. Sometimes that you are the master and I your servant. But O Rama, when I have the knowledge of reality, I said, I see that you are I and I am you. Greece, worldly means spiritual discipline. Master, why should not a man be able to realize God in the world? But he must have discrimination and dispassion. He must have the unshakable awareness that God alone is real and all else is unreal and has but a 2 days existence. It will not do to float on the surface. You must dive deep. With these words, the Master saying, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Master, you must remember another thing. In the ocean, there is danger of alligators, that is to say, of lust and the like. Greece, I am not afraid of the king of death, Master, but I am speaking of the danger of the alligators of lust and the like. Because of them, one should smear one's body with turmeric before diving in the turmeric of discrimination and dispassion. Some attain knowledge of God in the world. Mansion is made of two classes of yogis, the hidden and the known. Those who have renounced the world are known yogis, all recognize them. But the hidden yogis like but the hidden yogis live in the world. They are not known. They are like the maid servant who performs her duties in the house but whose mind is fixed on her children in the country. They are also, as I have told you, like the loose woman who performs her household duties zealously but whose mind constantly dwells on her lover. It is very hard to cultivate discrimination and dispassion. It is not easy to get rid of the idea I am the master and all these are mine. I saw a deputy magistrate who earns a salary of 800 rupees paying no attention to a religious discourse. He had brought one of his children with him and was busy finding a good place for him to sit. I know another man, whom I shall not name, who used to devote a great deal of time to japa, but he bore false witness in court for the sake of 10,000 rupees. Therefore, I say that a man can realize God in the world too, but only if he has discrimination and dispassion. Master and grace. Grace. What will happen to this sinner? Sri Ramakrishna sang in a tender voice, turning his eyes upward. Meditate on the Lord, the slayer of hell's dire woes, he who removes the fear of death. Thinking of him, the soul is freed from worldly grief and sails across the sea of life in the twinkling of an eye. Consider, O mind, why you have come to earth. What gain is there in evil thoughts and deeds? Your ways lie Your way lies not through these. Perform your penance here by meditating long and deep on the everlasting Lord. Master sails across the sea of life in the twinkling of an eye. One attains the vision of God if Mahamaya steps aside from the poor. Mahamaya's grace is necessary. Hence, the worship of Shakti. You see, God is near us, But it is not possible to know him because Mahamaya stands between Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita were walking along. Rama walked ahead, Sita in the middle, and Lakshmana last. Lakshmana was only 2.5 cubits away from Rama, but he could not see Rama because Sita Mahamaya was in the way. While worshipping God, one should assume a definite attitude. I have three attitudes: the attitude of a child, the attitude of a maid servant, and the attitude of a friend. For a long time, I regarded myself as a maid servant and a woman companion of God. At the time, I used to wear skirts and ornaments like women. The attitude of a child is very good. The attitude of a hero is not good. Some people cherish it. They regard themselves as Purusha and woman as Prakriti. They want to propitiate woman through intercourse with her, but this method often causes disaster. Greece. At one time, I too cherished that idea. Sri Ramakrishna looked at Greece pensively. Greece, I still have that twist in my mind. Tell me what I should do. Sri Ramakrishna reflected a minute and said, give God your power of attorney. Let him do whatever he likes. The conversation then turned to Sri Ramakrishna's young devotees, Master to Greece, and the others. In meditation, I see the inner traits of these youngsters. They have no thought of acquiring house and property. They do not crave sex pleasure. Those of the youngsters who are married do not sleep with their wives. The truth is that unless a man has got rid of Rajas and has acquired Sattva, he cannot steadily dwell in God. He cannot love God and realize Him. Greece, you have blessed me, Master. How is that? I said that you would succeed if you were sincere. Saying this, the Master exclaimed, Anandamayi, and went into Samadhi. He remained in that state a long time. Regaining partial consciousness, he said, where are those rascals? And brought Baburam to him. Sri Ramakrishna looked at Baburam and the other devotees and said, still in ecstasy, the bliss of Satchitananda is indeed good, but what about the bliss of divine abbreviation? He began to sing, once for all, this time I have thoroughly understood. From, from one who knows it well, I have learned the secret of bhava. Again he is saying, why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kasi, Kanchi or Prabhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? The Master continued saying, while praying to the Divine Mother, I said, O Mother, I don't seek anything else. Give me only pure love for thee. Sri Ramakrishna was pleased with Greece's calm mood. He said to him, this mood of yours is good. The calm mood is the best. The master was seated in the manager's room. A man entered and said, will you see the farce? The confusion of marriage. It is being played now. Sri Ramakrishna said to Greece, what have you done this farce after the life of Prahlada? First sweets and rice pudding and then a dish of bitter herbs. After the theatre, the actresses following Greece's instructions came to the room to salute Sri Ramakrishna. After the theatre, the actresses, following Grace's instructions, came to the room to salute Sri Ramakrishna. They bowed before him, touching the ground with their foreheads. The devotees noticed that some of the actresses, in saluting the master, touched his feet. He said to them very tenderly, "Please don't do that, mother." After the actresses had left the room, Sri Ramakrishna said to the devotees, "It is all he, only in different forms." The carriage was ready at the door. Grace and the others came to the street to see the master off. As soon as Sri Ramakrishna stepped into the carriage, he went into deep samadhi. Narayan and several other devotees were with him. The carriage started for Dakshineshwar. Saturday, December 27, 1884. It was the Christmas season. Talking advantage of the taking advantage of the holiday, many devotees came to the temple garden to visit the master, some of them arriving in the morning. Among these were Kedar, Ram, Nitya Gopal, Tarak, Surendra, M, Sarda, Prasanna, and a number of young devotees. This was Sharda Prasanna's first visit. Master to M. Where is Bankim? Have not you brought him with you? Bankim was a schoolboy whom Sri Ramakrishna had met in Bagh Bazar. Noticing him even from a distance, the master had said that he was a fine boy. After a while, Sri Ramakrishna went to the Panchavati with the devotees. They surrounded him, some sitting and some standing. He was seated on the cement platform around the tree, facing the southwest. He asked M with a smile, "Have you brought the book?" M. Yes, sir, master. Read a little to me. The devotees were eager to know the name of the book. It was called Devi Chaudrani. The master had heard that the book dealt with motiveless action. He had also heard of the great renown of its author Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, whom he had met some days before, and he wanted to gauge the author's mind from the book. M said, "A young girl, the heroine, fell into the hands of a robber named Bhavani Pathak. Her name had been Prafulla, but the robber changed it to Devi Chaudrani. At heart, Bhavani was a good man. He made Prafulla go through many spiritual disciplines. He also taught her how to perform selfless action. He robbed wicked people and with that money fed the poor and helpless. He said to Prafulla, I chastise the wicked and protect the virtuous. Master, but that is a king's duty. And in one place, the author writes of Bhakti, Bhavani Pathak sent a girl named Nisi to keep Prafulla company. Nisi was full of piety and looked on Krishna as her husband. Prafulla was already married. She had lost her father and lived with her mother. The neighbors had created a scandal about her character and avoided her, and so her father in law had not allowed her to live with his son. Later, her husband had married again, but Prafula was extremely devoted to her husband, to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, sir, you can follow the story. M. Reed, Nisi, I am a daughter of Bhavani Pathak. He is my father. He has also, in a way, given me in marriage. Prafulla, what do you mean, Nisi? I have surrendered my all to Krishna. Prafulla, how is that? Nisi, my beauty, youth, and soul. Prafulla, then he is your husband. Nisi, yes, because he alone is my husband who completely possesses me. Prafulla with a sigh, I do not know. You talk that way because you do not know what a husband is. If you had a real husband, you could never have liked Sri Krishna. The foolish Brijeshwar Prafulla's husband was unaware that his wife loved him so much. Nisi, all can love Sri Krishna because he has infinite beauty, infinite youth, and infinite splendor. This young lady was a disciple of Bhavani and well versed in logic, but Prafula was illiterate. She could not answer Nisi's arguments, but the writers of the Hindu social laws knew the reply. God is infinite, no doubt, but one cannot keep the infinite in the small cage of the heart. One can do so only with the finite. Therefore, the infinite creator of the universe is worshipped by the Hindu in the cage of his heart as Sri Krishna, the finite personal God. The husband of a woman has a still more definite form. Therefore, if the wife cherishes pure conjugal love, the husband becomes the first step towards God. Hence, the husband is the only deity to the Hindu woman. Other societies are inferior to Hindu society in this respect. Farfula was an ignorant girl. She could not understand Nisi's arguments. She said, Friend, I do not understand all these arguments, but you have not yet told me your name. Nisi. Bhavani Pathak has given me the name of Nisi Night. I am the sister of Diva, Day. One day I shall introduce my sister to you. Let me continue what I was saying. God alone is the real husband, and to a woman, the husband is her only God. Sri Krishna is the God of all. Why should we cherish two deities, two gods? If you divide to little bhakti of this small heart, how little there will be. Prafulla, don't be silly. Is there any limit to a woman's bhakti? Nisi, there is no end to a woman's love. But bhakti is one thing and love another. Summarizing part of the book, M said that Bhavani initiated Prafulla into spiritual life. He continued reading. During the first year, Bhavani did not allow any man to enter Prafulla's house, nor did he allow her to speak to any man outside the house. During the second year, the rule about speaking was withdrawn, but no man was allowed inside her house. In the third year, Prafulla shaved her head. Now Bhavani allowed his selected disciples to see her. The seven-headed the shaven-headed disciple would converse with them on scriptural topics, keeping her eyes cast on the ground. M. Then read then read that Prafulla began the study of the scriptures, that she finished grammar and read Raghuvansa, Kumara Sambhava, Sakuntala, and Naishadha, and that she studied a little of the Sankhya, Vedanta, and Nyaya philosophies. Master and book learning. Master. Do you know what that means? People like the author of this book believe that knowledge is impossible without the study of books. They think that first comes the knowledge of books and then comes the knowledge of God. In order to know God, one must read books. But if I want to know Jadoo Malik, must I first know the number of his houses and the amount of money he has in government securities? Do I really need all this information? Rather, I should somehow enter his house, be it by flattering his gatekeepers or by disregarding their rough treatment, and talk to Jadoo Malik himself. Then, if I want to know about his wealth or possessions, I shall only have to ask him about them. Then it will be a very easy matter for me. First God and then the world. First comes Rama, then his riches, that is the universe. This is why Valmiki repeated the mantra Mara. Ma means God and Ra the world, that is to say his riches. The devotees listened to the master's words with rapt attention and continued with the story of Prabhupada. Prafula finished her studies and then practiced spiritual austerity for many days. Then one day Bhavani visited her. He wanted to instruct her about selfless work. He quoted to her from the Gita. Therefore, do thou always perform obligatory actions without attachment. By performing action without attachment, one attains to the highest. He told her the three characteristics of disinterested action. First, control of the sense organs. Second, absence of egotism. And third, surrendering the fruit of action to Sri Krishna. He further told her that no dharma is possible for the egotistic person. Quoting from the Gita, he said, the gunas of Prakriti perform all action with the understanding deluded by egotism. Man thinks I am the doer. Bhavani next spoke to her about surrendering the fruit of action to Sri Krishna. Again he quoted from the Gita, whatever thou dost, whether, whatever thou doest, whatever thou eatest, whatever thou givest away, whatever austerity thou practicest, O son of Kunti, do that as an offering unto me. Master, this is fine. These are the words of the Gita. One cannot refute them, but something else must be noted. The author speaks about surrendering the fruit of action to Sri Krishna, but not about cultivating bhakti for him. No, that is not especially mentioned here. Next, Prafula and Bhavani talked about the use of money. Prafula said that she offered all her wealth to Krishna. Read from the book again. Prafula, like my actions, I offer all my wealth to Sri Krishna. Bhavani, all. Prafula, yes, all. Bhavani, in that case, you won't be able to perform action in a detached spirit. If you have to work to earn your food, you will be attached to that work. Hence, there are two alternatives before you. Either you will have to get your food by begging, or you will have to live on your money. Even a beggar becomes attached to the alms he receives. Therefore, you must use your own money to maintain your body. M. To the master, smiling. That is the nature of the calculating mind. Master, yes, that is the nature of the calculating mind. That is the way the worldly man thinks. But he who seeks God plunges headlong. He doesn't calculate about how much or how little he needs for the protection of his body. M. Next, Bhavani asked Prafulla, how will you offer all this money to Sri Krishna? Prafulla said, why? Sri Krishna dwells in all beings. I shall distribute the money among them. Bhavani answered, good, good. Quoting from the Gita, Bhavani said, he who sees me in all things and all things in me never become separated from me, nor do I become separated from him. That yogi who established in unity worships me, dwelling in all beings, abides in me, whatever his mode of life. O Arjuna, that yogi is regarded as the highest who judges the pleasure and pain of all beings by the same standard that he applies to himself. Master, these are the characteristics of the highest bhakta. M. Again read from the book. A man must work hard if he wants to help all beings with charity. Hence, it is necessary for him to make a little display of clothes, of pomp and luxury. Therefore, Bhavani said, a little shopkeeping is necessary. Master sharply, a little shopkeeping is necessary. One speaks as one thinks. If a man thinks of worldly things day and night and deals with people hypocritically, then his words are colored by his thoughts. If one eats radish, one belches radish. Instead of talking about shopkeeping, he should rather have said, a man should act as if he were the doer, knowing very well that he is really not the doer. The other day a man was singing here. The song contained words like profit and loss. I stopped him. If one contemplates a particular subject day and night, one cannot talk of anything else. The reading continued. The author was describing the realization of God. Prafulla had become Devi Chodrani. It was the month of Vaishak. Devi was seated on the roof of her houseboat talking with Diva and another woman companion. The moon was up. The boat had cast anchor in the Ganges. The conversation turned to the question of whether one could see God. Devi said, as the aroma of a flower is directly perceived by the nose, so God is directly perceived by the mind. At this point, the master interrupted and said, yes, God is directly perceived by the mind, but not by this ordinary mind. It is the pure mind that perceives God. And at that time, this ordinary mind does not function. A mind that has the slightest trace of attachment to the world cannot be called pure. When all the impurities of the mind are removed, you may call that mind or pure Atma. M. The author says a little later that God cannot easily be perceived by the mind. He says that one needs a telescope to have that direct vision. Yoga is the telescope. Yoga, as it is described in the Gita, is of three kinds: jnana, bhakti, and karma. One is able to see God through this telescope of yoga. Master, that is very good. These are the words of the Gita. M. At last Devi Chaudhrani met her husband. She showed him great devotion and said to him, "You are my God. I wanted to learn the worship of another God, but I did not succeed. You have taken the place of all gods." Master smiling, "I did not succeed. This is the dharma of a woman totally devoted to her husband. This also is a path." The reading was over. The master was smiling. The devotees looked at him eagerly, waiting to hear what he would say. Master to the devotees, smiling, "This is not so bad. It is called the dharma of chastity, the single minded devotion of a wife to her husband. If God can be worshipped through an image, why should not it be possible to worship Him through a living person? It is God Himself who sports in the world as man." Masters, spiritual experiences. Oh, what a state I passed through. I passed some days absorbed in Shiva and Durga, some days absorbed in Radha and Krishna, and some days absorbed in Sita and Rama. Assuming Radha's attitude, I would cry for Krishna, and assuming Sita's attitude, I would cry for Rama. But Leela is by no means the last word. Passing through all these states, I said to the Divine Mother, "Mother, in these states there is separation. Give me a state where there is no separation." Then I remained for some time absorbed in the indivisible Satchitananda. I removed the pictures of the gods and goddesses from my room. I began to perceive God in all beings. Formal worship dropped away. You see that bale tree? I used to go there to pluck its leaves. One day, as I plucked a leaf, a bit of the bark came off. I found the tree full of consciousness. I felt grieved because I had hurt the tree. One day I tried to pluck some durva grass, but I found I could not do it very well. Then I forced myself to pluck it. I cannot cut a lemon. The other day I managed to cut one only with great difficulty. I chanted the name of Kali and cut the fruit as they slaughter an animal before the goddess. One day I was about to gather some flowers. They were everywhere on the trees. At once I had a vision of Virat. It appeared that his worship was just over. The flowers looked like a bouquet placed on the head of the deity. I could not pluck them. God sports through man as well. I see man as the embodiment of Narayana. As fire is kindled when you rub two pieces of wood together, so God can be seen in man if you have intense devotion. If there is suitable bait, big fish like carp gulp it down at once. When one is intoxicated with prema, one sees God in all beings. The gopis saw Krishna in everything. To them, the whole world was filled with Krishna. They said that they themselves were Krishna. They were then in a God intoxicated state. Looking at the trees, they said, these are hermits absorbed in meditation on Krishna. Looking at the grass, they said, the hair of the earth is standing on and at the touch of Krishna. Devotion to the husband is also a dharma. The husband is a god. Why should not it be so? If God can be worshipped through an image, why not also through a living man? But three things are necessary in order to feel the presence of God in an image. First, the devotion of the priest. Second, a beautiful image. And third, the devotion of the householder. Vaishnavacharan once said that in the end, the mind of the devotee is absorbed in the human manifestation of God. But you must remember one thing, one cannot see God sporting as man unless one has had the vision of Him. Do you know the sign of one who has God vision? Such a man acquires the nature of a child. Why a child? Because God is like a child, so he who sees God becomes like a child. God vision is necessary. Now the question is, how can one get it? Intense renunciation is the means. A man should have such intense yearning for God that he can say, O Father of the universe, am I outside your universe? Won't you be kind to me, you wretch? You partake of the nature of him on whom you meditate. By worshipping Shiva, you acquire the nature of Shiva. A devotee of Rama meditated on Hanuman day and night. He used to think he had become Hanuman. In the end, he was firmly convinced that he had even grown a little tail. Jnana is the Jnana is the characteristic of Shiva and Bhakti of Vishnu. One who partakes of Shiva's nature becomes a Jnani, and one who partakes of Vishnu's nature becomes a Bhakta. Chaitanya and the divine incarnation and the ordinary man. M. But what about Chaitanya Deva? You said he had both knowledge and devotion, Master, sharply. His case was different. He was an incarnation of God. There is a great difference between him and an ordinary man. The fire of Chaitanya's renunciation was so great that when Sarvabhauma poured sugar on his tongue, instead of melting, it evaporated into air. He was always absorbed in samadhi. How great was his conquest of lust! To compare him with a man, a lion eats meat and yet it mates only once in 12 years. But a sparrow eats grain and it indulges in sex life day and night. Such is the difference between a divine incarnation and an ordinary human being. An ordinary man renounces lust, but once in a while he forgets his vow, he cannot control himself. To M, he who has realized God looks on man as a mere worm. One cannot succeed in religious life if one has shame, hatred, or fear. These are fetters. Have not you heard of the eight fetters? How can one who is eternally perfect be afraid of the world? He knows how to play his game. An eternally perfect soul can even lead a worldly life if he desires. There are people who can fence with two swords at the same time. They are such expert fencers that if stones are thrown at them, the stones hit the swords and come back. Yogi and Vision. A devotee, sir, how can one see God? Master, can you ever see God if you do not direct your whole mind towards Him? Master, can you ever see God if you do not direct your whole mind towards Him? The Bhagavata speaks about Sukadeva. When he walked about the when he walked about, he looked like a soldier with fixed bayonet. His gaze did not wander. It had only one goal, and that was God. This is the meaning of yoga. The Chatak bird drinks only rainwater, though the Ganges, the Jamuna, the Godavari, and all other rivers are full of water, and though the seven oceans are full to the brim, still the Chatak will not touch them. It will drink only the water that falls from the clouds. He who has developed such yoga can see God. In the theater, the audience remains engaged in all kinds of conversation about home, office, and school till the curtain goes up. But no sooner does it go up than all conversation comes to a stop and the people watch the play with fixed attention. If after a long while someone utters a word or two, it is about the play. After a drunkard has drunk his liquor, he talks only about the joy of drunkenness. Nitya Gopal was seated in front of Sri Ramakrishna. He was always in ecstasy. He sat there in silence. Master to Nitya Gopal, smiling. Gopal, why are you always silent? Nitya Gopal answered like a child, I do not know, Master. I understand why you don't say anything. Perhaps you are afraid of committing a transgression. You are right. Jaya and Vijaya were gatekeepers for Narayana. They refused Sanka, Sanatana, and other rishis admission into his palace. For this transgression, Jaya and Vijaya had to be born three times on earth. Again, there is the instance of Sri Dama. He was Viraja's gatekeeper in Goloka. Sri Krishna was in Viraja's house. Radhika went there to surprise Krishna and wanted to enter the house. Sri Dama would not admit her, and so Radhika cursed him to be born as a demon on earth. But Sri Dama too cursed her. But there is one thing you should remember. When a boy walks holding his father's hand, he may fall into the gutter. But has he to fear? But what has he to fear if the father holds him by the hand? The story of Sri Dama is narrated in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Kedar, who was a government official, had been living at Dhaka for some time. He had been transferred there from Calcutta. He was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna and had gathered together at Dhaka many devotees who came to him regularly for spiritual instruction. As one should not come empty handed to a religious man, the devotees would bring Kedar sweets and other offerings. Kedar to the master humbly, should I eat those offerings? Master, it won't injure you if the offerings are given out of love for God, but they are harmful if they are given with any selfish motive. Kedar, I have explained everything to the devotees and now I feel relieved. I have told them that he who has given me his blessings knows all. Master smiling. That is true. You see, people of all sorts come here, so they find here different things. Kedar, I do not need to know different things. Master smiling, why not? One should know a little of everything. If a man starts a grocery shop, he keeps all kinds of articles there, including a little lentil and tamarind. An expert musician knows how to play a little on all instruments. Sri Ramakrishna left the room and went towards the pine grove. The devotees began to walk about in the garden. Several went to the Panchavati. Sri Ramakrishna met them there and said, I have indigestion. I took a meal at the Maliks. They are very worldly people. A few of the master's personal things lay scattered on the cement platform of the Panchavati, and he asked M to bring them. He proceeded to his room, and the devotees followed. In the afternoon, the master rested a while. Afterwards, a few devotees arrived. The master sat on the small couch, reclining against a pillow. A devotee, sir, can one know God's attributes through the intellect, master? Certainly not by the ordinary intellect. Can one know God so easily? One must practice sadhana. One must also adopt a particular attitude towards God. For instance, the attitude of a servant towards his master. The rishis of old had the attitude of Shanta. Do you know the attitude of the Gyanis? It is to meditate on one's own self. To a devotee with a smile, what is your attitude? The devotee gave no answer, master, smiling. You have two attitudes. You meditate on your own self and also cherish towards God the attitude of a servant. Am I not right? Devotee hesitating and smiling. Yes, sir. Master smiling. You see, as Hajra says, I can read people's thoughts. One can maintain those two attitudes only at a very advanced stage. Prahlada maintained them, but one must work hard in order to practice this ideal. Let me give an illustration. Suppose a man is grasping the thorny branch of a plum tree. His hand bleeds profusely, but he says, there is nothing the matter with me. I am not hurt. If you ask him about his wound, he will say, it is all right. I am quite well. Now, is there any meaning in the mere utterance of these words? One must practice discipline in keeping with this idea. The devotee were the devotees were giving their whole attention to what the master was saying. Chapter 36, The Master Birthday, Sunday, February 22, 1885. At this point I conclude this video. Next video number 40 will start with chapter number 36, The Master, the Master's Birthday, Sunday, February 22, 1885. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends. Thank you.